if you do things in the mornings, first thing in the mornings, you're actually still in that theta brainwave. And so when you're in theta, you're in that creativity mode, that receptive mode, that flow. And so you'll get more downloads, you get more ideas flowing. You're just in a clear state.
Your tarot reading for today, your life is changing.
Yes. Every single time that I hear anyone say your life is changing or like it's life changing, all I can hear is Sherry, your voice.
Your life
Suddenly, your life is
changing.
changing. Your little Australian accent.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so good. Your
Like,
life is
I
changing.
didn't even know I could speak Australian until then.
Have you ever heard of the book The Power by Rhonda Byrne?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, everybody needs to read this book. And so, The Power. You've got the power. I'm sorry. We can't stay on track with anything because we literally are ADHD.
Well,
I really want to share something about The Power, the book.
Okay,
Because
go.
when you were talking about the Australian accent, Rhonda Byrne has an Australian accent. But so when I listened to this book, I listened to it on Audible, and it was the best audiobook that I ever listened to, because it was like they put sound effects in it. She narrated the whole thing, and it was so good. But there were so many that book changed my life in the period of where I was in my journey. Your life is changing. It's literally like it did change my life in a big way. But it like talks about how we all have the power in us to create, to change anything. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book.
You just also reminded me of another book called The Power of Now.
By
Yeah, how do you pronounce his name?
Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart. Yes. The Power of Now. Have you read that?
I think I tried to listen to his audiobook on that, but he's got a very, like, he sounds like he's from the 1600s. He has this very, like,
I love it.
Like, it's a great, he's got a great voice. It's very unique, but he sounds like he's
Eckhart Tolle.
speaking from the 1600s. I don't even know. I wish. Can you hear it?
Inside? Asked the stranger. No, said the beggar. What's the point? There's nothing in there. Have a look inside.
In there.
I think that's a great. Wait, I should turn him off.
The beggar managed to pry open the lid.
You're gonna get us flagged for copyrights.
All right, dude. So I feel like that's a good topic for today. The power of now. Like living in the now every day, we have to constantly remind ourselves that we ain't living forever, so we gotta enjoy life, right? And sometimes it's hard to enjoy life, right? Because being a mother, being me a wife, I have 3 boys. Right now my house is wrote off. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people listening right now can relate. So I think let's invite the audience into this conversation right now, because there's so many of you who are saying, yeah, it's easy for people to say live in the now, live in the now, live in the present, be present, like enjoy life, like life is short. All that is true, but it's so hard to really live in the now when you have all the crap that life throws at you, all these responsibilities, work, whether you work in a corporate job or you're running your own business, or you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're just, trying to figure out what that life looks like. Sometimes our life is taken over by our mind, and our mind discourages us from seeing all the gratitude in life and life has to offer us, because we have so many things that are placed on us as human beings. Don't you agree?
It's very hard to stay present in the moment when you live in a world where you're constantly thinking about the next thing that you have to do and the next thing that you have to do after that. And that's the world we live in, because number one, the majority of people have a job. Most of us have to work in order to pay the bills, pay for the things. But then on top of that, there's a lot of us who are parents. You and I are parents. And I'm sure there's a lot of women in the audience who are listening as well, who are also parents. And so that's another, full-time job in itself, is all of the nuances of parenting and everything that comes with that. But then as women, I think we're naturally like those caregivers, givers. we're always looking out for everyone else and everything else. And what happens is oftentimes we get pushed to the back burner and leads to a lot of burnout. But it's like when you're constantly having to focus on everything else outside of yourself, it leaves very little room for you to be present, for you to be in the moment and enjoy the moments. And I find that there's a lot of women out there who are still operating, still living in that place of like survival mode. And I still catch myself living in that space of survival mode because coming into this world, we're really set up. We're not set up in a way to thrive as human beings. We're set up in a way where we're programmed to become like workers. Have you ever seen the Bee Movie? That's a really great example. Have you ever seen that animated movie, the Bee Movie? And like, they're like go their whole like childhood and they're all like waiting for the big day of like what their job is going to be for the rest of their lives and all this stuff. And then like I think that's very similar to the way that the structure is set up for us as humans is we go to school. After school, we go to post-secondary to get the big job and make all the money and, they glamify it. And then you get into a job and it's like you work hard, you climb the ladder, and then marry, have children, build a family, and then save up money, retire, and then you enjoy your life. But most people who follow that path, they're not living most days in the present moment, and most of the time they're burnt out. Their health is like declines.
Yeah.
Their cup is emptied, and so by the time they get to retirement, it's like people are on 50 different medications, and they're stressed and they're not healthy, they're not their best self. And so like a lot of the times when they get to that point, number one, they either don't have enough money to actually enjoy their lives, right? And number two, they're not in the best health and shape to go and live like we're not meant to be that way. And whoever sold us that like that dream of going down the path of that and then retiring and then enjoying your life in the second half of your life, like when you're in your 65, like who wants to do that? And so I think there's a huge, we've been sold a lie. And I think a lot of more people are becoming more conscious of it. I think a lot of people around the world are waking up to, you know what, I actually don't want to live this way anymore. I actually don't, and I think a lot of people are starting to look at ways to be able to break the mold and break out of the chains, because it's literally like modern day slavery if you look at
Oh
it
my
that way.
gosh. Yeah, think about that guy that we've been following on TikTok, Sailing with Phoenix, Oliver. And you had told me,
Yeah.
check this guy out. He like quit his corporate job and he bought a sailboat and he learned how to sail. He didn't know how to sail. He took his cat on this 24-day journey from Oregon, I think, to Hawaii. And he documented the whole way. But people were so inspired by what he did because many of us want to do that. We want to be able to quit our corporate jobs or our jobs or like have fun in life and just do the thing, right? But him doing that, like he sold his 401k, he like sold everything to pretty much do this. And he did it because he was unhappy. And I think that is a good example of like living in the now. Like you don't have forever. He even got diagnosed with some kind of spinal, I think some diagnosis. So that obviously triggered something in him to be like, what is this life that I'm living right now? You know? And we followed his journey, you and I, and like a lot of people around the world. And it was so inspiring. Like it makes me want to just like sell everything and not my kids, but sell everything and then, you know, go on an adventure and like enjoy life and buy a tiny home or live in a freaking trailer. You
A little
know, like
hot,
I mean,
a little yurt.
yeah, yeah. And I think like also like living in the now means that I feel like we have too much stuff around us. And we talked about this today, right? We're like, I just feel like I have too much stuff that I don't need, right? And so when you're living in the now, you're being very conscious and intentional about the things that give you that energy in your life. Like, and I told you today too, I said, I bought a vegetable chopper because I've been cooking really healthy for the last 3 weeks. We've both been. And I said, this will make my life easier. So I don't usually shop, but I went on Amazon and I bought this thing and it has changed my energy in cooking, right? So you have to understand that the things that you have are just things unless they give you some energy back in your life. So not necessarily like you have to, buy a tiny home, but if your home is giving you that energy. We've talked about this before in other podcasts, but I think it's so important because this life, we came empty-handed, right? And we often say that we're going to leave empty-handed. We're not going to take all this stuff with us. We're going to die, right? So when we die, what did we live for? And were we actually living in the moments day to day? Or were we focused on the destination? And if we say a corporate job or something like, people are hustling to work and pay the bills, they're not actually living, right? They're working to survive. So at the end of the day, it's like, how do you stop that cycle?
I love that. It's a really great question. And it brings me back to like a couple of months ago when I had this like existential, I'm gonna try that.
I love your big words. You're like, existentially.
Yeah, I
I-
know the word, and it won't roll off the tongue.
Let's ask
But
ChatGPT.
it like back a few months ago, it was like I had this like moment of my body was literally like screaming at me, like everything was like my inner being was just like screaming at me and just being like, you can't do this anymore. You can't fucking hold up this charade anymore. There's no more like doing and doing and doing. Because for me, a lot of my life has been like striving and achieving and like proving and go like without knowing that I was like trying to prove anything, right? Like that was like a deeper layer to it all. But to me, it was like I had to be successful. It was like always the next goal, the next goal, the next goal. But then I was like realizing that every time that I reached that next goal, I would, check it off, I'd celebrate, be happy, it'd give me that dopamine like burst. But then it was like right away, it was like, okay, what's the next thing? And I realized that every time that I would go to the next goal, there was a lot of work involved going to each goal, right? And I just felt like, why am I doing this? Why do I keep chasing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing? But then I'm still right back at square one.
Yeah.
I'm literally still right back at square one. I'm not getting to that place of like that freedom, that fulfillment, that joy, that like abundance. Like that's truly what I was trying to get to. But it was masked through so many other things. And like you said, the proving of that I'm worthy, the proving that I'm good enough, right? And so it was like striving for all these different things. But as I'm doing this, I'm missing out on life. I'm missing out on life with my kids. I'm missing out on life just being present, right? Like just being in the moment and enjoying my life where I am now instead of trying to go to the future. So it was always in the future. I was always working toward the future instead of just being in the now. And back a few months ago, I just like had this like moment where it was like a breakdown. Like I literally had a huge breakdown. But through that breakdown, I had my breakthrough. And that was realizing that I've been living in this mode of achieving and striving and trying to prove when really I have nothing to prove. And what is the point of like trying to achieve? What you're trying to get to, Whitley, is that feeling of joy, that feeling of freedom, that feeling of purpose, that feeling of meaning. And you can have that at any point in time. And you can have that right now. You don't need to do XYZ, and do all this work to get to this future state in order to feel that. And so because I've been so like programmed and so conditioned to operate that way, and my behavioral patterns were so ingrained to show up that way, that it was really hard for me to shut it off right away. It was really hard, but I realized I was like, I'm not present. I'm not enjoying the now. And I had to like create a practice around getting into being in the present moment and shutting off that survival, shutting off that striving, that constant doing, right? Like I would be like, a year ago, well, you and I would be, you make fun of me for this. It's hilarious. Like having to fluff my pillow. Like, I'd be sitting there and it's like all of a sudden I start picking up pillows and I'm like, fluffing them up and like cleaning stuff, moving, like constantly doing stuff. Right.
Yeah.
But I remember I decided, you know what? Okay, I'm committing to this. And I'm sharing this with all of you too, because I know there's probably so many of you out there who can relate to like how I was feeling, right?
And
And how I was
we
showing
want to
up.
hear from you. We want to know what those things are too, because I think it's important to invite other people to express those things, because it's not something we feel like we should talk about all the time, because it's a safety mechanism to be in control of our lives all the time, to have everything together, but it's okay not to, right? And it's okay to share those things with others and be vulnerable, because at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, we're all human and we're not going to be magical like beings, that robots, let's just say, because yeah, AI is meant for that. We're not. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
human and we
Yeah.
go through ebbs and flows of emotion, but it's really about knowing that you're not alone in this, you know? Like you're talking about this right now, which you're going to tell everybody about, but and I noticed those things in you, but I also have those moments, right? And those moments are of control. I want to control everything so that I feel safe. And if I lose that
Mm,
control, I'm not going to be worthy. I'm not going to, yeah, and I might fall backwards. I might
yeah.
have no safety net because I feel like it's all on me as a woman, as a mother, to be everything.
Yeah. Like how many, and I want to ask this question too. How many of you listening right now have felt unsafe in your life? Like whether that's just how you show up in work, maybe that's how you show up at home, maybe that's how you show up with your finances, maybe whatever area it is, but feeling unsafe to the point where you go into this mode of like, maybe perfection, like trying to make sure that you have the perfect plan mapped out, or making sure that everything is perfect, or making or overdoing or over pleasing, or all the things, to making sure that you have the control outside of yourself so that you can feel safe. Like, hey, I just want to say you're not alone, because like Sherry and I have been there. And you know what? Sometimes that still comes up for me. I still find that those old programmings and those old behaviors and those old patterns still resurface from time to time. And like I was sharing with Sherry earlier this morning when her and I were talking on the phone, like there's like I was feeling really stressed, I was feeling really anxious, and I was just like, something's going on here, because I know like I don't always feel like this all the time, but like something's happening, and it's not just like one off day where I'm feeling anxious or stressed. Like my body is telling me something, like something is showing this is happening for a reason, to telling me that something's off and I need to tune into it. But you know what? I've been going and going and going the last like week or two. And so I haven't been as present. And so when you shift into being present, it's you allow that space for number one, your nervous system to kind of like slow down and also start to heal, right? It shuts off from that fight or flight. Number two, you start to really drown out the noise, because let's face it, our phones, the media, social media, everything, it's so loud, right? The world is so loud. And so when you tune in and you're present, that noise starts to come down a lot, right? And you start to tune in, you can start to tune into your own intuition, into yourself, and you also really start to tune in with the universe, higher power, that source. So it's like, okay, Whitley, cool, but how do I stay present? Because like my mind is like thinking about a million things. And I also want you to share too, Sherry, because you've got some really amazing tools that you've used over the years to really help you shift from like that go 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 to being present. Because you used to be very much like go 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 all the time, right?
Yeah.
I remember I would be like meditating like a monk, and you'd be like, girl, like how the fuck do you meditate? Like I can't meditate. And now
Yeah.
you can. Now you can sit and be present, right? So I think that number one, it's just carving out a few moments out of your day, because hey, this is a practice. It's not saying like, oh, you got to meditate for 15, 20, 30 minutes a day. It's not like that. It's just like taking a few moments out of your day, whether it's like going for a walk, or it's sitting still, or it's doing something that allows you to just be still without any distractions, no phone, no device, nothing like that, no TV. And you just get to sit and be still. And sometimes like your mind, not sometimes, like in the beginning, your mind's going to be like, did you shut off the stove? Oh,
Yeah.
you got to put in a load of laundry. Like it's going to do that,
Oh,
right?
did you
Because
finish that thing? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because your
yeah,
body is so programmed to just like go, go, go. So you really have to like start
yeah,
to train, but you do that through a practice. And it literally
yeah,
could just start by like doing 2 minutes, two
yeah,
minutes, and
yeah.
you force yourself. So if your mind starts to drift, or you're like, I got to do this. Nope. This is the 2 minutes. Put a timer on the phone or somewhere and just
That
sit
helps.
for those
Yeah.
two
Timers
minutes.
help for sure. And they say
And
you
it's
shouldn't focus for more than, I think it's You shouldn't do something for more than 90 minutes, and then you should need a break.
90? For 90 minutes?
So like if you're doing a job, like a work thing,
Oh, right.
you shouldn't go over that. You should go take a break after that. You shouldn't go for hours. So there is like your brain shuts off. You're not as productive when you go over that time, right? So what you find is you're pushing, and things ain't getting done because your brain shut off, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what
I've been
happened.
there.
Like, yeah, you go to the gym for half an hour, you're tired. Like, geez, I can't do this anymore because that takes brain power too, right? So everything takes
I'm
brain.
curious to know. I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, for those that are listening, do you actually carve out those time blocks for yourself? Do you actually like
Yeah.
give yourself those like 30 to maybe an hour of like, I'm only gonna work on this for this amount, and then you take a break? And I'd love to like just hear like if you guys can put in the comments or wherever you guys are tuning in, how many of you carve out those time blocks,
And
and
what do
how
you
many of
do?
you
Yeah.
and what do you do? And then how many of you are actually just going straight into your work and just working, and then taking very little breaks? I'm super curious to know like what you do. Would it be A or B?
Yeah, I am too, because I know that for me, it's like I get more done when I'm focused in the mornings. And also, I find that having that break scheduled in gives me motivation to do it. So I'm looking forward to my break, right? So when I get my lunch break, I'm like, yes, it's lunch. I can go relax until whatever time. And then I'm ready to go on to the next thing. Another thing is mixing up priorities. You don't always have to do things in order that you think you need to do. But I feel like for me, I find it easier to do things that are harder in the morning when I'm in that state of focus. Then I'll do the easier things later because I find I get more done in that mindset. That's clear thinking, right? And there's no
You
noise.
want
There's
to
nothing that has like entered my brain during the day to like obstruct me. So I do the hard things
exactly.
in the morning
And
and
the
I
other
kind of
thing
get it
too,
done faster.
I just wanted to quickly add into like that part where you're talking about the mornings, right?
Mhm.
Because like if you do things in the mornings, first thing in the mornings, you're actually still in that theta brainwave. And so when you're in theta, you're in that creativity mode, that
Right.
receptive mode, that flow. And so you'll get more downloads, you get more ideas flowing. You're just in a
Yeah.
clear state. Yeah. I
Yeah,
wanted to add that
exactly.
in because it's super important.
No, that's very important. And I also think that writing things down in a sense of like, you might think you need to do all this in one day, but you don't. So go through the list of things and be like, you know what? Is this urgent today or can it wait? I would do the most urgent things first just to get them off your plate when you're at your most like receptive on those areas in the morning for me. And, tell yourself the statement because I've told you this many times. Nothing is urgent, right? And when we take that phrase into our lives, we can choose what we do, right? So I could say, okay, I have this gallery I have to deliver for photos that I did at a wedding, but it's due. I gave myself enough time. So I tell them 4 to 6 weeks, but I know I can get it done in say a week if I put all my focus on it. But I don't want to do that. I want to be able to spread it out so that I can still not be rushed. I can enjoy my weeks, but also like put in the actual intention behind the photos, not be rushed through it. So you have to prioritize where your deadlines go. Even if it's like a job that you're in right now, what are your deadlines? If it is a deadline thing, hey, well maybe I'll wake up an hour earlier and get that done so I can have the rest of my day to myself or to other things that don't cause me so much anxiety or stress, right? And what can I give to other people to relieve some of that load, that workload? What can I ask of my family? And for you, Whitley, you're a single mom, and that is very hard because at least I have my husband. Not that it's any better having 4 boys in my house, sorry. But, it's hard because they're not going to clean the house the way I clean the house. So I feel like that's on me, right? And they do stuff, but you know how when you ask your kids to do something, it's like, okay, they do it, and you're just teaching them like how to be responsible and clean up after themselves, but they're really not doing a great job. So then they go out and you end up doing it again. So
Yeah.
it's not the
Like, well,
same.
damn, I should have just did myself to
But
begin with.
you try to teach them a lesson, right? So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right, cool. Like you're on kitchen. Next morning, I'm doing the kitchen because they didn't do a good job. So anyway, so that's I digress. It's very much like where can you put a workload on to someone else that you don't want to do? And the same goes for work. Same goes for entrepreneurship. So many times I said, you know what? I don't want to give up control of my art,
Mm.
of my
Yeah.
job. Like, because this is my thing, my baby. I built it. Like, this is my name, my reputation. People are gonna like, if something goes wrong, it's on me, right? But if you actually learn to give up control in areas of your life and trust other people, you will be surprised because there are people who want to help you. And there are people who can do probably a better job than you can. We just need to learn that we're not, it doesn't have to be all on us to do everything. So, how do you start delegating those things in your life? And it could be a slow process. And even at work, setting your boundaries, being the person that is the leader of your life, not just even if you're a leader in your job, it doesn't mean that you have to give, give, give. You could set that example. What is a true leader in work as well, and allowing others to take the lead and to be able to like take off some of that workload from you, because at the end of the day, we're human. We burn out. There's been many times in our lives that we have burnt out, but we ignored it. And for so many women listening right now, some of you are probably going through that burnout, and some of you probably hate the jobs you're in. Some of you probably think, you know what? All my energy is going into things that I have to do, that society told me I need to do. I need to I need to live. I need to like support everyone. I need to be everything for everyone. But that is not the truth. The truth is we get to take charge of what that looks like. And it starts from, making those choices to change those things in our lives and knowing that the truth is not what you thought it was. It's a different story now.
Yeah. And the beauty of that is that you get to change that story at any point, and you can change that story, that you can change that narrative now. Right. And I think that kind of going back to what you were talking about, the trust portion of it, I think a lot of us as women, is very hard for us to give up that sense of control, but also to put our trust in others. And I think that that is such a it's such a huge limitation for us, because, and I don't want to go too deep into like the reasons why it's hard for us to trust, and everybody's different. Everybody has their own reasons, but I mean, I just want to like point it out that it's more common than for it to be something that us women have to deal with, is allowing ourselves to actually trust, right? And the moment that we can shift from that lack of trust and actually shifting into allowing ourselves to trust, not only trust ourselves but also to allow ourselves to trust others, it really does create it's such a game changer for us to be able to make those shifts, right? And I remember myself actually like having to work through that, right? I've been through a lot of shitty situations in my life, right? Where, I've been burned so many times. And so like that lack of trust in others, I've had to work on it, right? And that also working on the feeling of safety, right? And I think that they kind of go hand in hand. And so one thing that actually really helped me to step more into that ability to be able to trust others was every single night. So when I was working through becoming more present, every single night before bed, I would listen to affirmations that reaffirmed that I could trust others, reaffirmed that I was safe. So these affirmations, they would go into depth into like various different like scenarios and stuff. And so there was like tons, probably like 30 minutes worth of affirmations. But every single night, I was determined to listen to this because I knew it wasn't something that I could just change overnight. It wasn't something that I could just change behavioral. It was on a subconscious level. It was my beliefs that I needed to change. And so every single night I would listen to these. And the reason why I chose to listen to these affirmations every night was because I wanted to rewire and reprogram myself with these new empowering beliefs that would align me with the reality that I wanted to now step into. And so when you listen to affirmations, or you listen to this in the evening, like at nighttime while you sleep, the reason why it's so powerful is that it seeps into the subconscious, and the subconscious runs like 80% of our lives, right? That's that autopilot side of us. So me doing these affirmations every single night for like 30 days, I just watched my reality start to shift, and I was starting to trust more. I was starting to delegate more, like Sherry was saying, right? So delegating more, putting up boundaries, letting go of the things that you don't need to really be doing, that you think you should be doing, but for whatever reason. And I started to watch how that shifted. And so it's just like another powerful tool that you can use in your life if you're looking at, you know what, There's some limiting beliefs that I got to work through. Affirmations are so powerful. And then like that's what I would do. I would do that every single night and listen to them as I slept. And I've been doing affirmation. I've been doing that for so many years and it's been so helpful. But I just wanted to like share that because I think it's super important to say, you know, we can be doing all of the actionable steps of like that are tangible, but I also think it's really important that, you know, a lot of our beliefs and our patterns and stuff that are molded on a subconscious level are also part of the work that we have to do. And so that's just another
Yeah.
powerful tool you
I
can
think you're right
use
on the
to be able to
belief
step
stuff,
into that.
like reprogramming the brain to reprogram those limiting beliefs. However, I do feel like it doesn't come by just affirmations. I feel like we have to change parts of our lives, like routines, different things, living in those beliefs. It doesn't mean that you need to live a luxury life and buy a big house. It just means that you need to surround yourself with those beliefs. That it could be like, say you want to go to Bali, but you can't go to Bali. Well, go to a little restaurant that feels like Bali. Like, just kind of like put yourself in the state of feeling those things, those beliefs, right? And living in those moments that you want to live in. And I think living in the now means a balance between living life and doing the responsibilities and taking care of yourself and your self-care, right? And sometimes our bodies scream at us and it's like, you know what? We're going to shut your body down now. Have you ever noticed that? You get sick. We're going to shut you
Right?
down because you've been
Yeah.
going too hard. So now you need to sit here. Guess what? When you're sitting, you don't know what the fuck to do because you're on your freaking phone. You're like, scroll, 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 because you think that's the living in the now. But really, that's like more noise, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly. If
toxic noise.
anything, that's the worst is like this the doom scrolling
Yeah,
because
I'm
it's
guilty of
so
it.
loud and it's
Yeah.
so noisy. And you also like here's the thing, and again, kind of going back to like our subconscious programming and our beliefs and stuff, like be so mindful of the content and the stuff that you're taking in.
True.
Because whether you
Yeah.
realize it or not, you are being programmed by the things and the repetition of the things that you consume.
Yes.
And so like be very, very mindful of what you are allowing your mind to absorb, right? And I think that you're right, Cher. It isn't just about sitting in, also about the feeling. I agree with you. It's like feeling into the things that you want to feel more of. Like I was saying before, like like trying to achieve success. Well, it wasn't the success that I wanted. It was the feeling of freedom. It was the feeling of joy. It was a feeling of fulfillment. And so if you can start to look at, well, what are some other things that make you feel free and feel joy? Well, you know what? When I eat like a really delicious, like nutritious meal, that gives me joy. When I'm having fun with my kids and we're doing something together as a family, that gives me joy. So do more of the things that bring you the feeling of what you ultimately want to be in alignment with. And like that will really bring your reality in even faster, right? Like that'll help you to live in alignment with what you truly want versus what you don't want.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
a large part of why I had to give up my career as a wedding photographer, and this, is because of that, is because I was not living in the now. And I was constantly going, proving, working to be somebody. And I was forgetting that I had a life, and the kids would get neglected because I'd be out all the time or I'd be editing all the time because I need to prove myself. And you forget that your kids love you despite all of that. They don't care what accomplishments you've made. They don't care how much you work for them or like give them. They don't care about all that. They just want you to be present. And the funny part is when I started to be present more, I started to see my kids differently. I was like, you have your own personality. You're not a baby. Do you know what I mean? And you start to say, well, I didn't know you were that smart. I didn't know you knew this. Like, I need to know my kids more, right? And as they're getting older and older, they're developing themselves into human beings and they need us more now than ever because we're giving them those values of what it means to live a fulfilled life and a job and work hard, but also have a balanced life, and showing them what love is and not because, like I said, my dad only used to work, 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 and I never saw him. Never saw him. So it's like I learned it from that, right? So I also don't want my kids to learn that you have to work 24/7 to exist,
Mhm.
you know? you have to realize like life is way more, because what if you lose your job tomorrow? Well,
Yeah.
then what?
Yeah.
So put yourself in that situation of like, okay, I lost my job, now what? And see what that looks like.
I'm so glad that you shared that, Sherry. Like, I think that's important. And like, yeah, it's so real, like, and it's so raw, like, yeah, I think that is so normal, actually. I think
I think
just,
more people go through it than we know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I say that because I think that as parents, we can carry a lot of guilt, right? We can carry so much guilt. And I think it's just like it's super important. It's like, hey, if you're a mom, like, and you feel like sometimes you're failing as a mom, you feel like sometimes you're not present, sometimes you feel like, you could be doing better. Like, just know, like, you are enough, and that it's normal, and that it's okay, and that you don't have to be like Wonder Woman. You don't have to be everything for everyone, and like, just give yourself grace and remind yourself, you know what, like, you're doing the best that you can with what you have and with what you know. And for
Exactly.
that, you are enough and you're amazing. And just having more conversations like this, open and real conversations with other women who get it, who aren't here to put on a mask and say, you know what, like,
I'm
look at me
perfect.
and I'm doing it
I'm the
all. And I'm like,
perfect sports
yeah, like,
mom. I'm the
no.
perfect. Like I make all these nutritious meals for my kids. Like good for you. But are you happy? Like okay, like I could do all these things for my kids tomorrow and like be the sports mom, go to every game, cook them delicious like nutritious sugarless meals and be like, "I got you." But really, really is that me? Right? So like ask yourself like what kind of mom or what kind of person do you want to be for the people in your life? And if it's to put on a facade and to show up as if you think you need to show up that way because that's more control in your life, that's what's going to get you the best outcome. Guess what? That's not always the case, right? For me, it's like best outcome is love. Best outcome is unconditional love. That's it. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all together. You don't need to do the laundry every day. You can tell your kids to do chores. You can scold them if you want to, right? This is not I'm not trying to be perfect. We can't be. We're human. And the more your kids see, I believe that, the more your kids see this part of you as like the nurturer in a messy way, they're going to love you more because they're not going to expect that of people in their lives when they grow up. Like the more we normalize this is what being a human being is, like the more we can normalize putting things on the back burner if it can wait till tomorrow and normalize asking your kids to pack their own lunch, which we do. And people don't understand that. I'm like, I'm not that mom. Sorry. I'm not packing their lunch. They have two hands. They have, they can physically see and grab stuff and cook it and eat it, right? And so for me it's like I grew up that way. My kids are going to grow up that way, self-sufficient, but they know I love
100%.
them. They know I love
Yeah.
them. And that's all
Yeah.
that matters. I'm not going to leave them on the side of the road. They have a house to live in. Eventually they're going to pay rent. But for now, they're okay.
Yeah. So Nate, you better get on that part-time job here soon. Your time is coming. Tick tock.
Listen, can we talk about one thing I want to share with our listeners what your daughter did yesterday. Can we share that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love this. So was it Saturday? So, okay. So my daughter, she's 16. She's going on 17. She's full of personality. She's sweet though, like so loving and caring. Anyways, she is a teenager, and as all teenagers, they love money. They want money, and they're constantly, I'm mama bank. Yeah. So I'm like, girl, you need a job. Like, it's time to get a job. I had a job when I was 14. So I'm like, girl, get a job. And so she wanted money to go to the movie theater. I said, you know what? You go out today, hand out resumes, and I will give you money for the movie theater for tonight. But you're gonna go and you're gonna hand out resumes. Anyways, she got her ass ready. She went out, handed out resumes. She comes back. She says, "Oh, I had a great conversation with the owner's wife at this donut shop, blah, blah, blah." So Monday comes around. She gets a call from the owner. So the owner says, come in tomorrow for an interview. So she shows up for the interview the next day, shows up for the interview. The owner does not interview her though. She says, Mommy, he gave me a challenge. He said, I've got all these people that come in and claim to know, like, hey, we've got all this experience and can do all this stuff. Mind you, she's a baker. Avery is a fantastic baker. She's never worked with donuts though. So she says, all right, I guess I'm going to go and do this challenge. She had 2 days, and then she was going to go in on Friday and show them what she baked. And they were going to test it together. He said, hey, if it's good, you got the job. So she goes out, okay, again, going back to self-sufficiency. I have very much am that mom who makes my kids self-sufficient as well. So she didn't call me up and say, Mom, I need you to come get me and take me to the grocery store and no, she found out a way. She called up Jay. She was like, hey, can I borrow some money? Because I need to get some baking supplies because I got a job I'm going to get. Okay. So yeah, I'm at a conference all day. She doesn't want to bother me. So she's problem solving.
Nice.
She goes to the grocery store on the streetcar, gets her stuff that she needs, carries the bags back on the streetcar back home, and starts the process. Okay. So she's doing this all on her own. Yesterday, she's working on the final touches of this donut. Apparently, this donut shop has every flavor on earth. So she had to come up with something new. She finally comes up with something new. She told the owner, and the owner said, all right, cool, bring it in today. I want to try it. So I drive her over to the donut shop so she can go in and the owner can test it out right there. So she's in there, I'm parked outside, and then the next thing you know, the owners wave me in. They're like, come on, come on. So I got to go in, I got to meet them, and they're super sweet. Family run business, like so awesome. She got the damn job. She got the job.
What'd they say? What'd they tell her about her
Sunday,
donut?
Monday, Tuesday, and yesterday was Wednesday. 4 days. So after handing in a resume, 4 days later, she had the job. So she starts today.
Okay.
Today's her first day.
Did they give her feedback on her donut? I really want to know.
They loved her donut. She made a churro cheesecake. So it was a donut, and it had like whipped.
Oh my
It wasn't whipped cream. She did like a cream cheese frosting, and it's amazing. The owner, she said, Mommy, when the owner was trying it, he literally was scooping out the frosting. Like he was eating the cheesecake frosting. He was like, and then when his wife tried it, she was like, people are going to love this. We're going to tweak it a little bit because like they're experts in donuts, right? Like this was her first time making a donut. So there was a few things that they were going to tweak with the recipe so it doesn't like sog and stuff. But they were like, they're going to use her recipe in the donut shop. So she's going to be baking. She's going to be baking this summer. She's got her part-time job. She's like, yeah. And it is a great like family owned business. And she's so passionate about baking. So it's not like she's going to work for like a corporate, like McDonald's or like a fast food place. Like she's actually getting to take her skill and her passion to this new like first part-time job that she's ever had. And she's going to learn so much. She's going to learn so much doing this. So very proud of her. Very proud.
I am so proud of her. Like I saw this story and I was like, I literally want to eat those donuts. And I have been vegan for 3 weeks and I'm like, I want to eat those donuts. Like, so when I come to Toronto, I'm going to get me some donuts.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Avria, better make me some donuts.
Yeah. She had a cookie business for a while. At her
she
old
did.
School. It was popping. Like she was, So like
That's
this is
determination. See, you're doing something right. Okay. So let's look at it like that. Like you are teaching your kids in your own way, whether you're not sitting in them and down in a classroom, but they're learning from you. They're seeing your work ethic. They're seeing the way you go for things. Right. So like a lot of times we think that other people aren't getting inspiration from us because we're, so busy living in our own, like, trying to prove ourselves to ourselves. But also our kids are watching. And when they see what work ethic is and the value of money and the value of doing what it is you love to do and that the joy that comes with that, I feel you're also allowing them to do that instead of pushing a narrative onto them that we've all been fed our whole lives, which is you got to like do this job to be successful or else. We need to let our kids be who they are, right? And whether it's working at a donut shop or a McDonald's or whatever that looks like, that's their choice, right? So again, it's letting go of that control in our lives and the people that we think we need to control in our lives, so that I think those responsibilities come and tie in with that, right? It's like being a mom, we have to be responsible for these humans when in fact, we've already built resilient human beings that can do it. We just got to trust that they
100%.
can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love it.
I'm so excited for her. This is such a good conversation. And I think if anybody wants to drop any comments about the episode, if it resonated with you, we'd love to hear your story too. Like if there's anything that, you're going through right now, because for us, it's important that we hear all sides because,
And
not
especially if there's anything
Yeah.
that stood out the most to you
Right.
through the episode, something that stood out the most to you that resonated with you, and something that might be like, oh wow, like I'm going through that right now, or like I'm experiencing that, or I went through that. Or even if you are in the process of like stepping into this like new aligned version of yourself, what are some of the tools and things that have helped you? Like what are some of the things that you're using that, you could share with the rest of our soul sisters here. So would love to hear.
Yeah.
We both love to hear for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank
And we'll
you.
see you next time.
Sending lots of love.
Bye.
Bye, soul sisters.